Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Hi everyone. Welcome to our third day of our World Technology Universities Network Exchanges and Student Competitions Showcase session. So this is our third day. On Monday we heard from Katie O'Dwyer, her exchange programme, and yesterday we heard from Thea Lynn and also from two of our student teams. So today we will hear experiences from two WTUN Exchange participants that took place in 2019. One of them was between Suranaree University of Technology and the University of Bradford on the topic of entrepreneurship in STEM subjects. Sorry, can I just remind you the session has been recorded? So just to let you know, be aware. And our second exchange today is between Dublin City University and York University on the topic of teacher education and for relationships and sexuality. Through this, we'll hear more about the work that has been done in some of our member institutions through some of our popular activities. We'll hear about the experiences of one of our winning teams from our student competition, and also be able to look forward to future connections between our institutions. Okay, so back to today, may I pass you over to the brilliant Dr. Adisak Suvittawat for his reflections on his written exchange. So, Dr. Adisak, can we move over to you, please? Welcome to the meeting.
Okay, I think everybody can see my presentation. Now everybody can see my presentation.
Not yet.
Okay, now everybody can see.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, good night in Thailand for everybody. I am appreciate to for today joining with the presentation. Actually, remember the of last year. Based on the last year discipline, this change program. I am coming from the Suranaree University of Technology.
Sorry, Adisak, we're just having a bit of trouble with your sound. Can I suggest maybe turning your camera off so that it's just your sound that's streaming, and then it might be a bit better?
Okay, I'm turning my camera off. The objective of my sitting is first one is yes. Second objective is last objective.
Sorry, Adisak, I'm still having trouble. Can some of the other delegates just let me know in the chat whether they're having trouble or if it's just my end?
No, I'm having trouble.
Thanks for putting that in the chat. Adisak, is there any way we can just come back to your presentation and maybe you can just have a look at the sound setup?
It means you would like me to back for the
Oh, there we go. That's a lot better.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just talk about the objectives, and the third objective, I talk about the university innovation and technology utilizations for the entrepreneurial experience. Based on the key objective that I had at that time, we try to collaborate between the entrepreneur skill mindset and also on the experience together. In this slide, I would like to show you that at the first step, I joined with the Professor Paul. Actually, I would like to sincerely thank him to my partner at that time. And before we are doing the activities, the first activity that we did it we call the boot camp. Boot camp is mean we allow the actually the graduated student, they already have their own business project, and they would like to join with the boot camp or entrepreneurial boot camp to get the experience and the suggestion from the coach or the people who have the experience, look like in this picture. In this picture is the first day that we start the activity together. And if it asks the potentials to add the value to the WTUNs, yes, in this project, is mean on the exchange project, I think it will have more benefits, both the WTUN and also in the university. The first one is on the jobs creations. Look like today the student, they are not looking for the salary persons. They are trying to creating their own business by create the job by themselves. The second one is on the new generations or the young generations on business mindset creations. Look like I said, on the science and technology students, they always thinking about only the technology. But when we talk about the business mindset, maybe they have less experience or less mindset on that one. And the last one that the value we add to the WTUN is the sustainable community by new business contributions. Look like if the student or the person, they can create the new business to the communities, they also sustain the communities on the new business contributions. The activity that I do look like I said in the first slide, we run on the entrepreneurial boot camps. And the second one, we are supporting, engage with the supporting staff on the entrepreneurial education knowledge sharings. And the last one on the activities, we are planning to have the exchange staff at that time. I so sorry that the COVID-19 pandemic, which made us to stop on that project in this year. In this slide, I show you on the boot camps activity. In this picture, I gave the suggestion, gave the recommendation, and I also hearing from the actually she is the graduate student. She tried to create her own business on the church from Nigeria or for somewhere else, and she tried to sow this business in UK. In this slide, I and Professor Paul visit the 30 Capel Street visits. 30 Capel Street is the actually we call SE, social entrepreneurs chips. It means they are doing the activity to promote the social activities, and I have an opportunity to visit them and talk with them on the activity that they are doing. I would like to talk about the outcome. Actually, is my last slide and the impacts of this project. The first one, I would like to say that the student, the science and technology student, they are aware of the entrepreneurial mindset and skill during at that time on the boot camp, and they are also adopt the entrepreneur concept for their workings. Entrepreneur concept is mean the student not necessarily to work on their own business. Even they work in the organization or the business organization, they can work with the entrepreneurship skill. They try to create the innovation in their own organization, or they try to have the creative mindset for their organization. We call entrepreneurs concept. And the outcome and the impacts, the last one is we enhance the experience, entrepreneurial experience utilizations, both Suranaree University of Technology and the University of Bradford. And I am thank you for everybody to have joined my presentation. And if you have the question, maybe we can share it together, right?
Oh, thank you very much. That was really interesting. It's great to see some of our exchanges and how they connect different departments and academics and research things together. It's really, really great the way it works and connects institutions around the globe. Our next presenter is Assistant Professor Audrey Halpin from Dublin City University. So over to you, Audrey. Hi, Adisak. Could you mind stop sharing your slides and we can move on? Lovely. Thank you very much.
See my screen before I start talking? Thank you.
We can see that.
So, thank you very much. So, I suppose it's very interesting. I'm a little bit, I suppose, in awe of the previous presentation because I suppose talked about my experience and what this has done for my career. So I'll just get on just to say that. So I work at Dublin City University Institute of Education, and this is the Institute of Education, part of the larger university, and I was just delighted when this was one of this exchange network was one of the possibilities open to me, which I'll explain to you a little bit. And I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to have an exchange with York University. So a little bit is that this was a unique opportunity for me within DCU and the World Technological University Network, because I'm not sure that you can see me or that they got to see me earlier, but I'm sort of early career in the university, in later career in life. I've been a teacher for a long time, and I'm now a teacher educator working in university. I've been an avid lifelong research reader and translator with a bit of an imposter syndrome, because I'm a teacher educator. I love research. I've been involved in the translation of research and so on, but there aren't that, I'm not an experienced researcher as such, so there aren't that many funding opportunities available to me. So this was just ideal. And there was, as I explored the network for where I might go with this exchange, I found something within a very particular niche or nexus area, which is the place of relationships and sexuality education for diverse populations, or within inclusive education. So the accessibility of this funding and the fact that it was flexible, that I could engage with other people and not necessarily have to produce research outcomes, which isn't within my remit or my gift at the moment, was just wonderful. And it was totally compatible. So the process of approaching York University and another faculty of education, and I will always be grateful for the opportunity to the network, and then to Dr. Jen Gilbert, who was willing to take me on. And I suppose, as often happens, within the network, and I'm just beginning to learn that, is the generosity of a senior researcher and the network of her colleagues that was made available to me throughout my week at York University. So my learning, it involved, I spent a day with individual researchers that were part of our network, and with herself, a day each with the people. So this had there were very deep conversations, and something that I do in my own work is sort of the lived experience of researchers and the stories. And I think this had a fairly profound impact on me, on my teaching. So the learning, it was valued at the time, but even more so now that we live in the virtual world. Almost sometimes, especially when I was preparing this presentation, I'm wondering, did that really happen? It has boosted my confidence, because I would have been teaching in this relationships and sexuality area because of my own experience and my knowledge of the importance of it for diverse learner populations in schools. I would have been teaching this to teachers. but having the opportunity to engage with very experienced researchers and findings in another jurisdiction really has boosted my confidence as a teacher educator. It also allowed me to make some very unexpected comparisons between what I had perceived might have been happening in Ontario and Canada and Ireland and what's actually happening, and we weren't that far apart at all. It really exceeded my expectations in terms of, I thought I might get a little glimpse of things, but I was able to engage in very understandings of how people go about their research, of their findings, and so on. And I mean, the opportunities that I now have to build upon this, and hopefully we will move beyond COVID times, and I will get to doing that. So to the network and the human connections, I mean, this is a lovely opportunity here this morning, but I suppose the opportunity to actually go and meet with people was really invaluable. That is influencing my current role and beyond. I suppose one of the big things that came out of it was that there are very surprising similarities and synergies between what's currently happening in relationships and sexuality education in Ontario and throughout Canada, as I got through some of the other researchers in the network, and in Ireland, and that surprised me. I had a master's student this year, which I'll go into a little bit on the impact slide, who I was able to support in a different way, who did a deep project on the experiences of people who are considered to have learning diversities or special educational needs, some of whom have intellectual disabilities, of relationships and sexuality in school. So I don't think I would have been able to supervise that student and the excellent project that has emerged if I hadn't been embedded with this and in this situation for the week. So, you know, I can see, you know, the learning and the possibilities that are there now, but I am particularly bolstered and situated to make use of them. So these are the outcomes that I you know, you could say, was I blagging my way into the network, you know, in trying to, you know, we always try to present, you know, our best front, I suppose, in making a proposal. And, you know, it sounds very good. And I was looking back at that. And yes, you know, obviously I submitted the thing. I've been able to inform the program development. You know, I've been able to, you know, develop the program that I was working on with practicing teachers, and also to build this into initial teacher education. So I have exceeded that, you know, stated or potential or hoped for outcome. Yes, I've had ongoing opportunities to engage with this. I was able to participate in a number of different national fora last year. I'm not a major partner in that, but I was able to have a voice and an informed voice. And I also had the wonderful opportunity of I was you know, asked to do some peer review of articles that were being prepared for a special edition of a teacher education journal that was being curated by Jen Gilbert, who was my exchange partner. So I suppose I'm mentioning the people there, you know, all the people that made this possible. And I'm sorry that I'm not able to mention all of the names that were behind the scenes, but just to say that it was a really amazing, enriching experience for me, a person who doesn't have access, I suppose, to other research opportunities and grants. So I will be grateful. And I suppose I'm doing well on the impact piece, the ongoing research, which is one of the things that I need to step into now with this more confident role. So I remain hopeful on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Audrey. That was really, really interesting. It just goes to show as well, I mean, as well as the academic connections and research connections and institutional connections, we also get that human connection. And this case was evident on Tuesday and yesterday also, where the exchange also impacts on personal development of colleagues who take part in the exchanges. And it's really great to see how that can impact on all that we do. It's just wonderful. Thank you, Audrey. That's really, really interesting. And thanks to Adisak too for joining us today. The exchange is a really, really important part of what we do. So it's great to hear stories from the exchanges that have taken place and the successes that there've been from them. We should move on now to our student competition. Like I said yesterday, the student competition was launched in 2020, so this is our first year. So we've managed to engage with lots of fantastic students from our member institutions. I think I've discussed this yesterday, so I won't linger too long on the topic, but just to in case you weren't here yesterday, the students from our member institutions were invited to submit a proposal that would help to address an issue connected to one of the three WTUN's chosen UN Sustainability Development Goals: clean water and sanitation, good health and well-being, and sustainable cities and communities. The proposals were required to contain an element of public engagement and have a societal impact and use digital creativity. The student competition will be back for 2021, so please check our website and social media as we'll be launching the next round early next year. So today we'll be hearing from our highly commended second place teams and their fantastic project. So I will now pass you over to Luis Nobrega and their team from Universidad Federal do Rio Grande do Norte and their Behave app. Luis, can I pass you over?
Yes, thank you, Zenia. Good morning. So I'll present now. One moment. It worked. Yes, okay.
Yes, we can see that. Fantastic.
Thank you. Hello to you all. Good morning. I am Luis Nobrega, one member of the group, as well as Lucas, Luis Santos, and Rafaela. We are students of UFRN and Behaves developers. It's my pleasure to meet you all. By the student competition of WTUN, we were challenged to use our digital creativity to approach one of the chosen sustainable development goals of UN. Our choice was sustainable cities and communities. From this challenge, we created Behave, a new tech tool to contribute to cities development and sustainable communities. We believe building a sustainable city involves great issues whose solutions we still don't know how to deal with. However, Behave brings an innovative proposal in social organization and population connectivity, using a new concept of social network to enhance the democratic access to all individuals to the community and information, becoming a management tool that allows the community itself to have greater autonomy. And thinking that we created Behave. All of this thanks to a disruption in the models of connection between people on the network, and consequently in the way in which information is spread. In the dominant social network models such as Instagram and Facebook, recommendation algorithms with complex machine learning structures limited the way users interact and dictate how information will be shared. Therefore, Behave seeks to break the knots of the networks and decentralize access to information and communities by breaking the dynamics imposed by applications and allowing users to interact in the way that best fulfill their needs, thus constituting an application that truly molds itself to both user and society. So there we have our pretty logo. By here, I think that the time is short, so I can't show now. I prefer to show in the end. We made a demonstration of the app in this video that we sent to the organization. If there is some time left, I show in the end. So let's continue explaining. So groups and information will be geographically arranged in a visual way, allowing the entire community to interact and access as they please. In this way, we allow that when using Behave, the user has access to information and communities quickly and visually, like this. Since they are geographically arranged in the application. In this way, facilitating access to the events and communities closest to the users, using location as a filter, allowing the individual to have greater agility in finding the information that's really relevant to them. As soon as the user logs into the app, they will be instantly have access to information social circles from their location. In the video, this is better explained than like shown. What before would be necessary intermediaries and a good network to allow access to information. Now in Behave, it will be visually available. Behave shows you in real time a map of your region where there will be information icons posted by the community itself in real time. And this is the main function, connecting the community collectively. That is why we created chat groups with unlimited capacity for members and with logistical and organizational tools that enable the community to act. Like what could be done using Behave during the COVID-19 pandemic. The residents of the neighborhood could organize with the neighborhood group, for example, a schedule of trips to the supermarket in order to avoid overcrowding, and everyone had equal access to the purchases. The population itself could report overcrowding and promote alternative routes and exits. Citizens diagnosed with COVID-19 could place an infection icon on their homes, creating a heat map of the disease over the city, contributing to the control and measures taken by the public service and the neighborhood itself, as well as promoting awareness, a mutual and decentralized exchange of information among citizens, especially in time of crisis, like these are shown, like pictures of the early days of the pandemic, where the people were stocking food and something like this, and the app will be a nice way to avoid this stuff and to find someone lost in a overcrowded place. It will be helpful too. So that's the end. If I have time, I would like to show the video, but I think there isn't. So someone have any doubts or something like that?
Hi, Lewis. Yes, we can show the video.
I can show the video, right? Vocês, can you see the video?
We can't see it yet. Just your presentation.
Just a minute.
Okay. Or we can play it for you.
I got it.
Okay.
So it's working now?
We've got no sound at the moment. You press play. We can see, but we can't hear.
It's working?
We can. We've got the visual, but not the audio. So you can see the video, yeah, but not the. We can't hear the sound.
So this is a demonstration of of how the app functions. This is a chat that are related to the location. Where people nearby can talk. This is the function that I mentioned, like the heat map, that is interesting to avoid overcrowded places. And there is this filter that can choose the messages, and there is some good applications too. So the video is a little more complete than this, but I think that it's made clear if someone have any doubts about the presentation. It's done.
That's great. Thank you very much, Luis. That was so interesting. It's really great to see the demonstration from you also. I can open this up to some questions. If anyone has any questions for the exchange participants or for the student team, please either you raise your hand on the little function app at the top, or you can use the chat down the side to ask any questions. So, yeah. We can remind people as well that all the videos from our top 10 teams, student teams, are available on our website. There's a link to that in the chat function. Okay, that's great. So if no one has any questions for this, thank you to all our participants. It's been really great to hear from you all. Really great to hear your experiences and how these have how the network works together to bring people together and to foster new projects and things. How fantastic. So I think we'll close this session now and move on to our development session. So if anyone would like to stay for that, please do. If you've got ideas, please let us know. Thank you very much. I'll pass you on to Sonia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I think that was a really brilliant session. I always find that the showcase sessions are one of my favourite sessions at WTUC, whether we do them in person or virtually, because we really get to see firsthand from the people who are getting involved in WTUN activities and are actually doing the work on the ground. So what a brilliant way to see that. So welcome to our development session. This is our third and final development session of WTUC 2020. It's our final session of WTUC 2020, and I'm sure you're all very upset about that. But, you know, we'll continue to do more activities virtually over the next few months to keep everyone involved. So thanks everyone for coming along today. So the point of these development sessions are to give anybody and everybody who's here with us today an opportunity to propose any ideas or initiatives or projects that they have for the network. It may be something that you're already working on, or it may be a new idea that you've got and you've just thought today, maybe listening to some of our presentations or over the last couple of days, you know, oh, actually, I think if I propose this to the network, that would actually be really helpful. So it's a very open session. Today's session, we're going to be looking a lot at the Sustainable Development Goals as well, as that's been part of today's theme. I'm just wondering if Professor Dieter's online, because I know he wanted to say something, but until he can...
I am.
Oh, there we go. Brilliant. Great. So I'm going to hand over to Dieter, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the Sustainable Development Goals and the work we've already done in the network.
Yes, thank you, Sonia. We had a conversation about Sustainable Development Goals in the preparation of this conference, and I would like to discuss two questions about the Sustainable Development Goals and the WTUN in this session. And the first question is, should we reconsider the selection of SDGs? And the second question is, how can WTUN contribute more efficiently to achieve the SDGs? And both of these questions were also indirectly reflected in the presentations of the first session today. And I would like to explain why I ask myself these questions. First question, should we reconsider the selection of the Sustainable Development Goals? I think it was a good idea to focus initially on Goal 3, which is good health and well-being, and Goal 6, clean water and sanitation, and the third was Goal 11, sustainable cities and communities. I think it was a good selection. And in fact, we have chosen 4 SDGs because Goal 5, gender equality, is a central goal of WTUN. But I also think in the recent years, Goal 7, affordable and clean energy, and Goal 13, climate action, have become more and more important. And we should reconsider the selection of our SDGs and think about adding the Goal 7 and Goal 13 also to our focus. It is not only because Fridays of Future, the Fridays of Future movement, but it's also because the Paris Climate Agreement will crash if the world continues to go on as before. And I think most of the WTUN member universities are already working on these themes. The reason for my question 1, and now to question 2. How can WTUN contribute more efficiently to achieve the SDGs? If you read the WTUN vision states, the WTUN vision, it states the activities of the network shall contribute to the achievement of UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we do it. We work on the achievement on Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs play an important role in our exchange programs, and they play a crucial role in our student competition. And also in the WTUCs, the SDGs were an important topic and always are an important topic. But if we want work really efficiently on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, I think some kind of coordinated research is also necessary. For example, for the energy and the climate change issue, we have to apply existing technologies, we have to improve existing technologies, and we have to adapt existing technologies to the local and regional conditions on different sides of this globe. So again, I think we have to coordinate our research, and I'm convinced that in the WTUN we have a tremendous knowledge which we only have to collect together to work together on the SDGs. But to coordinate our research, we have to bring together the experts of the WTUN members. And a session of 1 or 2 hours at the WTUC is not enough to bring together the experts to discuss intensively about their projects and about their activities on the Sustainable Development Goals. And therefore, we should create any instruments for an intensive interaction of our experts and maybe also spend some money for it. So I think I've talked enough now. and I would like to start an open discussion on these two questions and also about the SDGs at all. I hope
Brilliant.
you have a
Thank
lot
you
of
so much,
comments.
Lisa. Great. So can I just ask everybody if you've got comments to make, and I hope there are lots and lots, if you could just virtually raise your hand and then we'll come to you all in turn, or if anybody would prefer to put comments in the chat, you can also do that. I think it's a really important topic today. You know, we have been trying to embed the SDGs in the activities that we do, but there's definitely room to keep growing, and I think that was very evident in some of the sessions today as well. So who would like to go first? We've got some typing. I know we've got quite a few members of our general board and operations board.
There's a hand up.
Oh, sorry, it's just not popped up on mine.
Brian raised his hand.
Brilliant. There we go, Brian. Let's start with you. Brian, you just need to. Oh, there we go.
A bit slow on unmuting and unmuting. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say it's a great idea to review the SDGs. We adopted those for nearly 2 years ago now, and I think it's sensible to keep them under review. An awful lot's happened in the last 2 years. An awful lot's happened in the last 2 months. So I think it would be wise to do so. You know, you say the importance of climate change has gone up. It has, because of the I think that's that's certainly the energy is and climate change are well worth looking at, because the evolution of the Paris Accords has taken some surprising diversions, I suppose, in the last year or two, particularly with the Trump administration. But of course, the health one has taken a bit of a hike, given the COVID issues, which have caused us to meet virtually. I think it'd be quite wise to do that. So, but the mechanism should probably be to ask the operation board to conduct a review, you know, of members. There'll be plenty of people who aren't attending this particular session who will no doubt have views, and it would be perhaps good to get to ask all our members via the members of the operation board to sort of poll or accumulate some thoughts from the institutions and bring it together as to whether we should. We don't have too many. We always said if we adopt them all, there's too many. But we could have 1 or 2 more, or we could concentrate on different ones. But I think a review would be a good idea. That's my point. I think it's a great idea.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brian. We've also had a comment from Professor Shirley Congdon, which said that she also supports the proposal and feels like we require stronger system leadership to make a stronger impact, which I think is reflecting of the keynote speech that she made this morning as well. So thanks for that, Shirley. Any other comments? Please feel free to raise your hand.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Hi, it's Jalia. I also support adding climate action and Goal 7 clean energy to that. Reason being that from where I come from, Nigeria, Northeast Nigeria, these goals are very related to gender equality, because women, you know, are responsible for taking care of the home, and the source of energy over there is mostly firewood. So you can see the connection with gender, with energy, and also climate action, because we need to chop down the woods in order to burn them to produce energy. So I will really support adding these 2 goals. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brilliant. Got any other comments? Has anybody got any ideas more in line with Dita's second question about what exactly WTUN can do? So at the moment, we integrate the SDGs into our exchanges, and we encourage applications around the areas of the SDGs there. We also, they were the core of our student competition, which was fantastic, and the students that we've heard from over the last couple of days. Last year at the Congress, we held sessions specifically about our 3 priority goals. And for those of you who might not be aware, the 3 priority goals that we have at the moment are clean water and sanitation, good health and well-being, and sustainable cities and communities. But you know, WTUN does have a budget, and so what other activities do we think that the network could do as a platform to help with the work around these goals more? Yes, Brian.
Yeah, sorry to keep coming in, but I think the gender pledge was very effective within our own organisations, at least. Two thoughts occur to me about climate change. One is, why don't we adopt the climate change pledge across the network? I'm sure every one of our institutions is already looking at what it's doing in terms of reducing its own carbon footprint. So we could co-align that, and we could develop a best practice by agreeing a sort of internal statement across the network. And then the second thought is, we could try and then promote that. This is slightly different from the gender pledge, because climate change, our institutions collectively are not going to solve the climate problem. But collectively, we could then try and promulgate that by promoting it to other organisations within our different countries. So we could have a kind of proactive campaign once we had agreed a collective statement. So my suggestion would be, we ask the Operations Board to come up with a collective statement around climate change and carbon footprint of the network, and consider how we could lobby our organisations within our countries to do likewise.
Brilliant, thank you, Brian. And I think that's definitely something that the operational board will look at moving forward. We've also had a comment from Professor Paul Thorne from the University of Bradford, who's put a strong interest in working with the WTUN in supporting the creation of student and staff enterprise, both business and social, as part of contributing to the SDGs. And I think after we kind of wrap up this conversation specifically about the SDGs, we'll hear a little bit more from Paul about some ideas that he's got for the network as well. So really excited for that.
Actually, could I make one more point, Sonia? I think that our biggest, the most powerful capability we've got is our students. So we should involve our students in that. If we're going to try and make a promotion about climate change, then both internally and externally, then we should make sure that our student bodies are part of that. They'll love it, and you know, they're very idealistic, quite rightly, and very committed and very energetic. And they can be a massive power.
Brilliant, thanks, Brian. Has anybody else got their hands up? I think I might not be seeing them on my side. Shirley, is there a hand up there? Amir, is there a hand up?
Shirley raised her hand.
Yeah, I had my hand up as well, but Shirley. Shirley's there.
Do you want to go ahead, Amir, and we'll see if we can... Oh, there we go, Shirley. I can, I've got you now.
There's a terrible noise outside because somebody's the council are relaying the road, so I hope you can hear me.
I can, thank you.
I think D2 was also sort of suggesting, I think, that we need to do work in between the Congress with more deliberate focus on some of these SDGs. And maybe that's something that the operational board could think about as well, whether we need a couple of task force set up, which would maybe bring the academics together in a bit more meaningful way. And I think perhaps he might have been hinting that some of the funding might be able to be directed at such activities such as that.
Definitely, thank you. Amir?
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks, colleagues. Just to add to comments from Dieter, from Brian and Shirley, I think what would be really good, and this is discussions I've had with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the recent past, for example, around circular economy. They're really looking at ensuring. Sorry, my microphone's not very close to me. I hope that's better. Ellen MacArthur Foundation, for example, at the moment are really keen to ensure that universities are not only doing good research and learning and teaching and company engagement on things like circular economy, but are actually actively walking the walk, like I mentioned in my chat just now, as well on campus. You know, so what sustainable environmental activities do we have that we can showcase? What are the best practices? And certainly, I think, again, the strength of the network would be very powerful here if we can identify case studies of how each of our campuses or our institutions are actively, you know, again, walking the walk, really doing not only what we're teaching, we're actually practicing what we're preaching. I think that's for organizations like the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, that's where they're really keen to see activity in action from universities and from the higher education sector. And I think any support that the network can give towards developing those cases would be very useful. And certainly it would just be a good way of showing that our network is a very strong, climate aware, SDG aware platform for positive change and growth.
Great, thanks. That's a really, really good point. I think, you know, it's about the step after the pledge, and I think that's what's really important there. We're going to do something, okay, now do it, and then we can talk about that. So thanks for that. Any other comments, questions, maybe reflections from some of the sessions you've been to today, or anything further to add from anyone? Peter?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I mean, for me, a very special feature of our WTUN network is that we are not only producing paperwork. Yeah, I know from many other networks they are producing paperwork. They are advisors to whomever. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. However, what we are doing is more, let's say, something in a practical sense. We are supporting young people really to go abroad and to perform some research and to establish a new collaboration and so on and so on. I think, of course, it is necessary to think about new ideas as concerns strategy and so on and so on. But we should, this is my opinion, we should not lose our way to do real things. Yeah, I think this is the peculiarity of our network, and we should not lose it. And on the other hand, I told it already in the last session, in the session before the last session. This sentence, which was given by the Vice Chancellor of Heriot-Watt University 2 days ago now, could be a good motto. We are producing, or we are supporting the goal to have scientists of the world. Yeah, I think this would be a very good goal for our network. I mean, the products, if you like to call it products, of a university is, on the one hand, it is new knowledge, maybe some applications, patents, and so on and so on. On the other hand, it's very well educated students, young people. I mean, our future depends on the people we are educating today. It is decisive. If we want to have, let's say, a warm society, we have to educate people in a manner which is able to produce a warm society. If we do not feel responsible for it, we might get a society in the future which is completely different from what we would call, let's say, warm society. Yeah? It's going to be cold. It's going to be, let's say, unresponsible, and so on and so on. So I think a very important so-called product, yeah, so in the original sense, of course, of universities is a very well educated student. And so if we could educate scientists of the world or scientists for the world, yeah, this would be, let's say, a great goal also for WTUN, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. That's a really, really good comment. Anybody got anything to add to that, or any further reflections, comments, ideas about how to embed the SDGs even further? I know we've had a comment from Jalaya who said that there were some students at Coventry University that have organised some great activities such as a climate emergency meeting and plant-based food shows, and she really feels like staff should be supporting these, and I think we all agree that we should be doing that to help students in our own institutions, so that's great. If no one's got any other comments right now, I would like, oh, Dieter's got his hand up.
Yes, I would like to come back to the collaborative research and the interaction of the experts of the member universities. And one of my ideas was to organize workshops to the certain SDGs between the experts, and workshops which might be 1 or 2 day workshops, and exchange their knowledge and exchange their projects, because I am working on energy, on renewable energy projects, and on other projects which are handling wastewater treatment issues and so on. But I have no idea what other universities or other WTUN members do in this field. And if we exchange ideas, we have the chance to coordinate our research projects. And for example, I have one project with our colleagues from Koforidua Technical University in Ghana, which is also WTUN member, and this project has not only an impact for Ghana, but also for the whole continent, for the whole African continent, and also for big parts of Asia. But nobody in the other universities knows about this project. And I think an exchange of these research projects which go into the society of the countries would help a lot to coordinate our activities on the SDGs.
Definitely, I completely agree. I think one of the things that we've been working on for a while now, but definitely need to continue with, is finding out exactly what the research strengths of all of our members are and trying to make those links. And you know, the idea of an ideas exchange is a really good idea there. And I think that moving forward, we've been looking at launching some research symposiums, and maybe we would do that around our new chosen priority goals or in different research areas, and see exactly which one of our members are also active in those areas, and try and use WTUN as the platform to bring those researchers and academics together. A really, really good point. I think there's just a couple of comments that I may have put in there. Just open that. And we've got a hand up as well. Brian?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what Dieter said. I mean, it's a really good thing, but there's a lot to do. But the first step might be to compile a kind of a compendium of expertise. I don't know what you would exactly call it, but that could be done fairly easily by, not perfectly, but not too much difficulty, by our operation board members individually for each institution. Could make a list of the the areas of expertise. They'd be quite long for each institution, but that would allow us to bring them together. Then you and Zhenya could bring that together into a single kind of a compendium that could be updated once a year, if you see what I mean. So that then you'd have a place to go and see. It's a question of how do you get the information around to people, but that would also be a useful tool to use in going to external organisations at some future point, for instance, to get funding or to propose things to people, because one can then centrally demonstrate the strength of the network in a particular field.
Definitely, thanks for that, Brian. We've started on activities like that in the past and done market insight surveys, which we've tried to share around the members, and so I think that using the momentum from this congress, we can pick up on that to move forward into new activities.
I think there's a little bit, I think there's a little bit of money around at the moment because of the way we haven't been able to conduct as much activities over the last year. Sadly in a way.
You have no idea what I've done with the money in the last couple of months, Brian. You have no idea. Maybe the budget has completely changed since then.
May well completely change, but I think these things will all cost money. That's the problem. Everything costs money, so you have to find a way to support the costs.
Definitely. I'm just a little bit cautious of time, and I know that I promised Professor Paul Thorning an opportunity to share one of his ideas, so I just want to go over to him if that's okay. I know he's been wanting to pitch this to the network for a while, so Paul, are you okay to jump in now?
Sure. Let me just
Brilliant.
to my camera. Yeah, Sonia, I have to say I'm not particularly familiar with the format here, so I've sort of thought, well, if this is a sustainable development goal session, then maybe I should amend my pitch a little bit in that context. So I have actually pulled together some slides, but originally I spoke to Sonia about, even in these COVID-challenged international travel embargo times, we've got to find ways to keep working together around the subject that I feel passionate about, which is entrepreneurship. So Sonia was saying, well, no problem, I'll find an opportunity for you to talk to the network and just see if you can keep some of your ideas alive. And then when Sonia told me that I was actually going to be part of the sustainable development session, then I thought, well, actually, I can share with you the reason why I believe entrepreneurship is so important. I can share some pictures in a moment, but where I became passionate about entrepreneurship was working in a refugee camp. And the refugees that got into the camp, the price of transporting themselves to the camp was everything that they owned. So if you had to get across the lake and you left all your possessions, you gave all your money, and you got that trip, and then you were safe on the other side, and then the United Nations provided some refuge. But of course, what people did was they hid the money as best as they could. They swallowed the money. They did whatever they could to at least have something to take into that environment. And then what they did was bury the money. And the irony was that they were saving it for a rainy day, and it was already pouring. It was already the worst of times, and yet they buried the money. And what we tried to do, and a program that I, in the end, as the overall country director, I took personal responsibility for, was persuading refugees to spend money. Because the problem was that somebody would have just managed to grow some bananas, and the bananas were starting to rot, and they wanted a kid goat, but the goat was still suckling. So the opportunity just wasn't there for trade, and so the bananas went rotten and the goat never actually got sold. And then as soon as you start to unbury the money and create mechanisms for transactions, then things start to happen. And so we started these micro enterprise projects, and then I started to realize what happened when we worked with women, because there were various problems, as you might imagine, and particularly if the United Nations provides all the food in the world, all the food in the camp, which is the perception people have, then you start to see a rise in domestic violence because the men feel disempowered. The comment that was made earlier, women are getting attacked because of deforestation, they're having to travel further for firewood, and you start to see these other problems. But what I realized is when we start getting women into entrepreneurship, when they make money, they make really good decisions. And I don't want to generalize and stereotype, but they would spend the money on education and on medicine and on things that made a big difference. And then I started to realize that some of the entrepreneurs that we were working with, whether they were rice sellers, whether they were photographers, they were sending their kids to university. And I had the privilege of going back to the refugee camp about 8-9 years after I had finished in Tanzania for 3 years. And one thing shocked me and one thing delighted me. One thing that shocked me is 160 classrooms, or sorry, the 160 schools that I'd been involved in building were largely derelict. But what I really was amazed at was how many of the enterprises that we've been involved in starting up were still running and starting to trade internationally, and what that means. So when I was offered the chance to come to Bradford, I wanted to be part of the development challenge and part of a centre that had a passion for making a difference in the world, and I'm still there. So what I'll do is I'll share the slides, but Sonia, first of all, am I overstaying a welcome, or are we due to move on to something else? Have I got another 5 minutes?
You do, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just. So I gave a talk quite recently, and my area of expertise is sort of health, really, but around how small innovations can make a massive difference. And if there's one message I think I'd like to share with you today, is that if we can get our students into enterprise, I do believe genuinely that they can make some notable contributions to these bigger challenges. You know, that these huge goals of the Sustainable Development Agenda are actually accessible in some small way, but in a meaningful way to small enterprises. So let me just call my slides up and put the right one here. Is that sharing? Sonia, can you see that?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yep, thank you. Sorry. So Sustainable Development Goals. We're living in a COVID era, and what's interesting for me is when the COVID challenge was presented to the UK, we started talking about how we're getting our Formula One teams to use their ultra high tech to come up with rapid prototyping of ventilators. But I love this example, which was somebody who 3D printed a valve that could be used with a decathlon diving mask. And the idea that sometimes for every grand tech solution, there's a small tech solution that could also work. You know me, I'm passionate about international collaboration and a strong history of working with China, but the world still isn't talking about the fact that 85% of patients in China are actually benefiting from TCM. My Chinese friends, when they started to hear about the COVID challenge the UK was facing, sent me Chinese medicine, saying, look, keep these for your family because we believe in them. Nobody's having these conversations. But then when we move to this setting that I was telling you about, which is part, of course, of the agenda of this session, but also a major agenda of the world, and where I was doing this work, which was in that environment, then small things can make a big difference. So, this is using papaya, for example, to treat wounds. And papaya is a fabulous debriding agent for gunshot wounds. And gunshot wounds, of course, can be very dirty. Malaria, massive challenge. Bed net distribution programs obviously make a huge difference. But so did pouring vegetable oil on stagnant water because that stops the mosquitoes from breeding. And then, somebody set up an enterprise making guitars out of oil cans, and they made enough money to fund a Congolese band that basically cut an album. They made a lot of money, and they sent a lot of money back into the refugee zone. And we think about high-tech solutions, such as, for example, drone delivery of medicines. That's a fabulous idea with the sort of roads that I was showing you earlier. These things could work. But at the same time, I don't know if you've come across this idea, which is just, Coca-Cola have got a challenge of getting a bottle of Coke within 20 meters of every single person on the planet, which is probably true for most of us actually in this environment. What happens if you make the Coke crate a little bit higher so that you can then put some vaccination kits in the top, and then it goes on the back of the bicycle, and you can basically mirror Coke supply chain in order to get medicines where they're needed. But then I look at some of the stuff that we're doing locally. This is small stuff, simple stuff. It's about modifying the remote control of an elderly person's, in their home, so that they can actually communicate with people using the red, the yellow, the green, or the blue button. And if you need to check that they're okay, then you send them a message and they hit red to say, I'm fine. Yellow, I could do with some help with shopping. Green, actually my feet are really hurting and I could do with a doctor visiting. This is a local company doing something relatively low tech, albeit they have a contract now with LG, but making a big impact. Another company, trebling the amount of time that an organ can be preserved for, enabling us to do organ transportation over bigger distances. And so it goes on. So then those of you that were part of the session last year, remember me talking about this, global entrepreneurship. I'm not going to fly the flag about Bradford. I think is perhaps a lot better at entrepreneurship at times than we even acknowledge. And yes, we talk to our students about the Jack Ma's of this world, but we also talk to our students about, if you can feed a family through your resources, through your ingenuity, if you can be happy and free, if you can pay a mortgage for 25 years as an entrepreneur, that's great. You can work for somebody, or you can work for yourself, and these are life choices that are open to you. The key thing is have a go. If you think you've got a passion or a heart or an idea for entrepreneurship, have a go. Because if you fail when you're 18, fail when you're 21, you've always got a chance to pick yourself up and have another go. And so we came up with this program, and the program basically has, if I just focus on this one here, 12 UK students, UK-based, I should say, so they themselves are studying in the UK, but they may come from all over the world, meeting 12 Chinese students, and then, in a melting pot of a week, they come up with new business ideas, and then we mentor them, and then we get them ready through a boot camp for a Dragon's Den and real investment, real money. And that whole journey takes about 4 months. And what we started to realize was, yes, we could do our own program here with our own students, but actually working internationally with international students created a richness and an opportunity that we hadn't anticipated. And I could spend some time telling you about the examples there. One example was 2 social workers, Chinese social work student, Bradford social work student, realizing that there were similar issues, that children, when they face crisis in their lives, their parents struggle to find ways to talk to them. They can't talk to them about bullying, about abuse, about bereavement. And so they created a book series in Chinese and English, facilitating conversations so adults can cover some really tricky subjects in ways that they haven't been prepared or trained to do. And both those students got book deals in China and in the UK. And fortunately, they were able to choose subjects that were culturally relevant in both countries. So what I want to do, my pitch is, let's get entrepreneurship as something that all of us get involved in, and maybe some Bradford students, when the time comes, can travel and meet students in other parts of the world, and we can run this accelerated program in multiple centres. Recently, in the last couple of months, we've run an online version of this. It's not as good. It's not as accelerated. It's harder to get it to work, but it does work, and we have got enterprises that have been created as a result of this. So just really to start with, we're attracting entrepreneurs from outside of the UK to the UK through schemes that we have to offer visas all the way from startup all the way through to settlement in the UK. And just to finish where I started, these are the businesses that overseas entrepreneurs have brought to Bradford in the last year, really. So, apps that help us to learn African languages, a platform that's enabling parents to send money to children without getting ripped off. But then, you know, if you go down to something like the last one here, an Islamic mindfulness app. So it's called Sakina. They're just about to start with us. But they've identified the problem that in terms of mental health in the Muslim community, there's a lot of taboo. And actually, if there's a way of linking concepts of the Quran with peace and mindfulness, and hence the name Sakina, then there's a huge population in the world that could benefit from an intervention such as this. And these guys are bringing a company from Dubai, and the company already is turning over 7 figures. So it's those of you that are familiar with Headspace, for example, as an app, and that's been very successful. These guys are just rethinking the concept, positioning it in a different way, and I think they'll be very successful. So that's it, really. Just to say, I think it does make a difference. All things make a difference. And please, if we can in some way, carry on working together on this entrepreneurship agenda. I'd love to do so. It was a pleasure to welcome Adisak from Thailand to spend some time in Bradford last year before lockdown started to hit us. But please, can we have more conversations about ways in which we can extend this program?
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Paul. It's really, really interesting. You know, we've been working on sort of getting our innovation entrepreneurship work stream up and running for quite a while now, and we've had a couple of setbacks, and it's really good to see that the sort of motivation is still there, and that it's something that the network is willing to embrace. I'm very aware of the time. We have actually officially gone past the end of the Congress, but does you know, I've still got a few minutes. If has anybody got any comments or reflections that they want to make about what Paul said, or just in general as we close the Congress, anything that you want the WTUN team to remember and to focus on moving forward? Anything really at this point, and then I'll invite our chair, Peter, to come in and close the Congress.
Yeah, it's just up to me, I think, to thank everyone who contributed in a very active way to this wonderful Congress. I must say that my expectation to such a virtual event as we had it now was not as high as this fulfillment. Yeah, I think it was much better than I expected. Yeah, so I had really fun. Yeah, to look at and to hear. Yeah, of course, to all the contributions. And okay, it is not the same as a physical event. And I hope very strongly that in the next year we will meet in Malaysia. Yeah, at Harriet Watt campus to have the physical event. But nevertheless, it was better than nothing. Yeah, and we demonstrated that we are active and that we are able, yeah, to share our knowledge and to share our opinion also via internet and in form of online Congress. So thank you very much indeed, everyone, especially Sonia, Jinia, and all the staff behind and Georgie, who made it possible that we could have this wonderful platform. It was really great. Yeah, thank you very, very much. Yeah, and I can Brilliant. Say I love you.
Thank you so much, Peter. I think that's the perfect way to end the Congress, but not the conversation. I think we've had some fantastic ideas coming out of this, and I really look forward to working with you all in the coming months so we can talk about it all in Malaysia. So thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye from me at Bradford, and talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See ya.